What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Now, this boy is going to be a little longer than the rest, going over a complete guide for the all-new raid with Inside Destiny 2, the Root of Nightmares. Now, within this guide, we're going to have both of the secret chests, as well as how to get the red border chest at the end, which is way easier than other raids with King's Fall, as well as Vow of the Disciple. So this thing is pretty easy, and that's what we'll start out showing you on the timeline down below with time codes where each part is, if you need to just jump around in and out between the encounters, and also doing the puzzle so you can see where each one is, because they are pretty spread out throughout the raid. So when we load into the Root of Nightmares here, we're actually in the pyramid ship where the traveler Kamehameha and created all this life and brought Nezarec back. Now, when we start off, we are in a little jumping puzzle, if you will, before we get to the first encounter. Now, during this jumping puzzle is where we start off our red border chest as well. So during this part where we're working our way through the pyramid and all of these colorful roots, on the left hand side where there's some enemies and this little mausoleum, if you will, or structure, behind it you will see 3 different seeds. Now they can be any of the 2 colors, a light seed or a dark seed. That dark seed kind of has sections to it where the light seed almost looks like the traveler. Now, this section associates to 3 different rooms throughout the raid, where we use one of the mechanics that you will see in the first encounter to complete these 3 chains. Now, the first room that we go into is actually before the first encounter, so you just keep following this path right here, where there's this light door on the left. Instead of going there, follow this path down into the depths of the pyramid a little bit farther, and you will see what I was talking about with those seeds. Inside of this room, there will be a light seed and a dark seed. Whatever the first one on the bottom left was up in the initial Cataclysm room, for us it was a light seed, so you come inside of this aura under this little ball, shoot it, and make the chain to the next ball. Now you can tell which one you're going to, because in the center, kind of around that DNA, you will see a dark, smaller black ball that is accepting whatever buff you have, either that darkness or lightness seed. So when you shoot it, it'll light up whatever color you have on your puzzle, and it'll say your roots take hold. That's how you know that you did it right. And there are 2 more rooms like this, like I said, at the bottom. I will put those timestamps in this as well, because they are farther down after we do the first 2 encounters, and then right before Nezarec. So after you connect that first seed, whether it be light or dark, for your red border chest, keep following the path that I am, and we reach our first encounter, which is in that Cataclysm. Now during this encounter, there's going to be just a couple different roles that you have to do. There is one runner that will be using that buff like we did for the red border to connect different light seed nodes around this open area in a certain order 4 different times to solidify the boss wipe mechanic in this arena. Now everybody else, all 5 of the other guardians, will be running around doing ad clear, where we will have to deal with anti-barrier as well as tormentors, and there will also be 2 different scions that pop up in random spots around the map that you have to go inside of the bubble, like other mechanics that Destiny has used, to destroy it. This is used to spawn the tormentors, which the other 5 guardians, not the runner, all the runner is doing is worrying about doing those light seeds and running to each of the next spots. Once we defeat those scions, everybody on the ad clear team will see in the middle how there's that giant kind of pillar or platform. On the left hand side or the right hand side is where the tormentor will spawn. This is procced again by defeating both of those scions inside of the bubbles. Once those go down, the Tormentor will spawn, and once you defeat the Tormentor, you add time onto the Sweeping Terror, which is that white mechanic for this encounter here. Now for the runner, all you have to do, like I said, is shoot that buff at the very beginning of the platform to get your Feast of Light, and on where the node is and the aura around that seed, you will see a little beam of light pointing you towards where the next one is, and then walk up to it close enough where you're on that little pad underneath it, shoot it with the buff, and you will actually activate it, and then you just rinse and repeat. Head back to whichever seed has the aura around it, get your buff, go towards the next one and shoot it, and once you complete that 4 different times on this map, so 4 different sections, you will complete this encounter and get your chest. It isn't too crazy of an encounter, especially compared to the next ones, but it's an introductory to using that runner and collecting the seed nodes and seeing how that works with the Feast of Light buff as well as the darkness buff. Once you complete that first encounter, we are onto a little jumping puzzle where we also get our first secret chest. Now this involves killing yellow bar enemies on your way up through this jumping puzzle, or just through the path that is leading you up to the next area. It's not too crazy of a jumping puzzle in my opinion. It's just got a couple decent gaps that you have to cross with these little shooters that we use throughout the next encounter as well. But once you work your way up through the different levels of the pyramid and defeat those 6 different yellow bar enemies, you will get to this area where you have 2 scions shooting at you with a bunch of different doors or windows on this far wall. You jump into this one that the scions were shooting at you, and inside there will be a tormentor. Actually, if you defeated all 6 of those yellow bars on your way up, there isn't any that are too crazy out of the way. They're just on different levels as we're climbing and through some of the hallways. But once you defeat that tormentor at the end of this hallway in the pyramid, there will be our first secret chest where you can get some raid armor or weapons that you have had before with the chance of red border, as well as the mods for this raid. So once you get your red border chest, you work your way a little bit farther to where we reach our second encounter, where there is this big chasm, as you can see, with a light and a dark seed. Now this just takes into account basically what we were doing beforehand with using our dark seed to light our next dark plate, and the same thing for the light side, using that light to shoot the next light plate. Now the caveat with this is that we're going to have to cross the chasm multiple times to shoot the right nodes. Now for this, like before, we're going to need 2 runners, 1 for the light, 1 for the dark, and then we split the other 4 people, 2 on the left to add clear and 2 on the right to add clear. Now for our add clear, there will be invincible enemies on each side that are covered by either the darkness or the light, where you will have to have that debuff or buff, whatever you want to call it, to actually do damage on those certain Centaurians. But there isn't too much worry about them if you're just avoiding them. They don't do too much damage, but there is the chance that if you have the buff to defeat them, you can shoot the node on accident, causing a little soft lock for a second and have it reset. So I suggest only the runners going inside and getting that debuff, and then you wait until the very end, where there is also a barrier where we have to deal with. Once all of those are lit up and we complete the floor, the white mechanic timer goes away, and then everybody can get the buffs and deal with their required light enemies that need the light debuff on that right side, as well as the dark enemies that need the dark debuff on the left hand side. So when we move on to our runners, this time all we're doing is keeping one color is how we did it, and if you're shooting light, you stay as the light debuff, and if you're shooting dark, you stay as the dark debuff. Now the pattern that this goes is you start on your light side or dark side, you shoot that initial seed, and immediately cross over to the other side. On this side, you will shoot one node and then actually come back to your original side where you'll have to re-pick up the buff from the original seed and go shoot the first of the dark seeds on the left side as well. And you just bounce back and forth like that, shooting one seed every single time you cross while re-getting that darkness buff or lightness buff, whatever side you started on, finishing with a 5th flower or that 5th little seed at the very end, and you will actually finish on the opposite side that you started on since it is an odd number. But like I said, once those runners finish up and actually shoot their last seed, the white mechanic goes away. There will be a mini boss that's a yellow bar that pops up that is covered in whatever the debuff is. Like I said, there will be those invincible dark enemies and invincible light enemies. Everybody at the end of that floor gets together, shoots the buff, and then you can deal damage to all of those enemies and wipe them out. Once they're all gone, you're able to go up to the second floor, which is just a rinse and repeat of the first floor. We do that for the second and third floor, with the third floor finishing up once you shoot your 5th flower, whether it be light or dark, the side that you started on. That actually finishes the encounter where we wipe out those invincible enemies at the end, and then it goes away. We get our chest and our loot from this encounter, and then we move on to a little part that definitely takes some getting used to, but it involves everybody learning the mechanic of getting that field of light and also that little essence of darkness as well. So during this jumping puzzle, we also get our second secret chest as well as our second room for shooting our seed for that red border chest. Now during this jumping puzzle, it involves everything like I said from before, where we go and collect that field of light from the light seed, and then you need the field of light to collect the darkness seed in this part here. So you move on and to the darkness seed in the chain, shoot that to protect yourself from the heartbeat pulse that Nezarec is sending off, which will kill you instantly if you don't have the darkness buff. So this whole jumping puzzle part involves running from those heartbeats, that darkness pulse, by going from a light node to get the field of light, running to the next dark seed, collecting that with the field of light active, because that's the only way to collect the dark debuff, and then just keep leapfrogging basically as you go, progressing through the pyramid here, working our way into that third encounter. Now on our way, like I stated before, we are going to have our second room for shooting those seeds in an order to get your red border chest. Now this would have been the top seed at the very beginning that we talked about, so you can jump back real quick to see what that was, but we work our way to this part right before where we collect at the first door, and at this structure over here on the left hand side, if you just go inside of it, you will see these seeds sitting on the left and the right hand side of the room. Shoot which one you need to depending on your puzzle at the very beginning, and then work your way back up to where I am right here, and we move on to the first door where all 6 of us have to be, and right after this door is actually where our second secret chest is. So this one, all we do is jump up. Once we go through this door on the right hand side, there will be a wall that we have to open up by looking over this edge right here outside, and you will see one of those crystals that we used involve the disciple to shoot. That'll open up this door behind us for everybody to go into, where there will be our second secret chest and final secret chest, as well as that light and dark buff, so you can keep moving on your way through this part where it gets very, very annoying as you work your way up to the top of this darkness pyramid here. Like I said, just chaining those light and dark buffs together as you go, trying not to get defeated by that heartbeat pulse, but it does come pretty quickly, and some of those nodes are pretty far apart, so it might take a second for you to jump and skip your way through this, especially with collecting both the room for the red border puzzle as well as collecting the second secret chest up here. So it does take a minute for all 6 of you guys to get together, but once you do, it is easy and peasy the rest of the way. Both of these next encounters, in my opinion, are a lot easier than the first two with all the transferring buffs and everything of that sort jumping around. All you got to worry about is doing damage, in my opinion. Very, very easy. So once you finally make it up to the top of the pyramid after jumping and leaping back and forth with those light and dark buffs, we come into the planetary alignment room where we're dealing with our first boss as well. Now, people get very confused with this encounter, but when you break it down, it is very, very easy. So the way that this works is we're going to have 4 different runners and then 2 people dealing with ads. The ads are very easy. The 4 runners, all you have to worry about is your planets. Now, I'm going to throw this up on the screen right here, a little diagram that was made showing how the planetary alignment works and which call outs that we've been using. Definitely the easiest in my opinion. So as you can see, it's just a mirror image of each other. You have 6 planets on the left and 6 planets on the right. The way that the mechanic of this room works is you figure out 2 planets, 2 on the left and 2 on the right, that need to switch sides. So it'll be either L1, L2, L3 will be one of the planets that you need to switch, and then the same with L4, L5, L6. There won't be 2 that are like L6 and L5, if you will, on this diagram. It'll always be one on the upper platform and one on the bottom platform on both sides that you just have to switch. Now, to do this, all you have to do with those runners, if you will call them that, is defeat enemies as they come, and once the Centaurians in the middle get defeated by the ad clear team, you will get 2 gigantic Centaurians on your side that are yellow bars. Make sure that whoever is covering the plates, so up top on each side and down on the bottom, is the one that defeats that yellow bar Centaurian. This is because whoever defeats it will get the buff that allows them to see which planet for them is glowing. Now, the way that you decipher this is the left-hand side is the light side and the right-hand side is the dark side. So for the runner that defeated that yellow bar Colossus, if you are on the left-hand side, you will see 2 of your planets on your plate will be light and 1 of them will be dark. That is the planet that you have to switch. With the right-hand side, it'll just be mirrored. They will have 2 dark planets and 1 light planet. Those are the planets that you interact with on your side and then run to the opposite side. So if you start on the left and it's planet 6, you will walk under that planet, collect the buff, and then run to the right side and switch it with whichever planet that top right person called. So if it was R4, you would switch it with that closest planet right here. Now, seeing it in action live kind of looks like this instead of just showing it on a diagram. So once we do damage to the enemies in the middle and those Centaurians are defeated that are orange bars, those big yellow Colossus will join, and those is what the runners will have to defeat themselves to see which planet actually activates for them to switch. So right here, we pick our planet that doesn't fit. So like I said, the right hand side is dark, so you will be able to tell which planet doesn't fit because it's the light planet, and the opposite on the left, whichever planet is dark, is the one that doesn't switch. So you go into that planet underneath and activate it. You will get the planetary affinity. Once you get that, you switch to the opposite side. So that's why we have 4 runners. We have the bottom L plate, the top L plate, and then the top R plate and bottom R plate. You switch with your exact numbers. So you basically only have to worry about planets 1, 2, and 3 if you're on the bottom plates, and then 4, 5, and 6 if you're on the top plates. But once you switch them and that planetary shift counter, it goes all the way down, the planets will shift around to the order, and you know you did it right when the planets flash and it says the index planets reveal themselves. Now this means that everything has been aligned correctly and you can start damage phase after one more step. So once you align the planets the first time, you can see in the middle there will be 3 different plates. One in the very middle, one on the left, and one on the right side. Above those plates, there will be a planet. There will either be 2 planets that are light or 2 planets that are dark, with the other one being the opposite. So this comes into play once you defeat those Centurions again. There will be those giant yellow bar Colossus that spawn. Make sure you defeat them immediately. So whoever is a runner can grab a light planet and run to one of those 2 lights plates that are in the middle to kind of activate it. So you have to have 3 of the runners grab whatever buff they are on and run to whatever plate that was also that same color planet. So if you're on the left hand side, you'll grab one of those light buffs from a planet and run it to whichever planet inside of those plates is also that. So there will be a runner that isn't doing anything besides defeating their Colossus, so it's not annihilating people during damage. Now, the reason that this is important is because during that damage phase, you have to alternate between the planet with 2 colors to 1 color. So if you have 2 lights, you'll have to do damage phase on a light colored plate, then a dark colored plate, and then alternate back to the other light colored plate that is left, kind of like Caretaker. So the same thing goes if you have 2 dark plates. You will have to start on one of the dark plates, rotate to the single light plate, and then rotate to the other dark plate. This isn't going to always be in an order of like left, center, right. Sometimes you will have to go center and then left and then right. So you just kind of have to make sure you're starting at whichever plate has the double colored planet. So whether that be light or dark, and you'll know that from slamming on those plates. But that is it. So you just rinse and repeat doing damage at each of those plates as you go along, and wipe out Zo'Arak here and deal with those Cabal as they keep coming out. But it is a pretty easy 2 phase. And when he goes into final stand, there isn't any real order of the place that you have to stand on. Just make sure you guys are all together inside of a well on one of them, doing damage to finish him off with that final phase, and collect your loot at the very top of this map. And we're moving on to our final room, as well as Nezarec, which is a super easy boss in my opinion as well. So after that encounter, as we make our way through this jumping puzzle right here, we actually end up at our last room with that jumping puzzle and shooting the seed in the order for our red border weapon. This is when we reach this giant chasm right here with those 4 nodes sticking out of the wall. You can jump down a couple routes onto this little platform right here and look up, and there is a hole in the ceiling. Jump up into it and connect whichever seed that you need. That is finishing off your last 3 for that puzzle right there. It's just connecting one of those seeds, and you will see again that'll say your action takes root. And then once you finish that 3rd one, it also says a great harvest await, which just means that you got all 3 of them done, and you can get that red border chest at the end. Now, once you hop back out of this room, you just climb that wall, and this is basically where our Nezarec starts. Now, this encounter is definitely way less routes than doing the last encounter with the planets. All you do is you have 2 runners, one on the light side and one on the dark side. You have one person taking the gaze from Nezarec, because Nezarec is running around booping everybody with almost that Tormentor purple explosions, and it makes it very hard for the runners to get to where they need to be, because you do have to be pretty quick with this action here. So during this, like I said, you have 2 runners, 3 of people are clearing ads because there will be some Colossus and everything like that, and then 1 person is taking the gaze from Nezarec. So for the runners, all you're doing is basically like we were before. You're starting on your own side and you're staying on your side, connecting 6 different of these flowers and seeds on your side. And once you finish with that 6th one, it stops his white mechanic, which is prevented. You can see him start to flash and he explodes, kind of like that heartbeat was, but it's very focused and wipes everybody on the map. Now the two runners deal with their sides, like I said, running from seed to seed. It is pretty easy to finish the first run, but you might need refuge on the second one as well. So the way that we do this refuge is when the person that is taking Nezarec gaze from the center, they will be shooting off their shoulders to take that gaze. When you shoot off the shoulder, you will see it either spark that yellow light for the darkness side or a white light for the light side. This just means if we're not going to make it in time for that white mechanic, you have to go to whichever other side and shoot that darkness or light route with everybody inside it to prevent that big pulse of light from killing you. We had to do it right here so you can see kind of how it works. Someone from the light side came over. We all gathered around this node. Once it was shot, people got the darkness buff, which prevented the wipe of that yellow burst. Now the same thing can work for the light side as well. But you just rinse and repeat this every time. Once both the light and the dark side is connected via those different seeds, then you all conglomerate on one plate and deal your damage. Now Nezarec does jump around very, very fast and can slam, so you just got to be careful with your rockets or whatever you're using. DPS wise, Thunderlord, rockets, Gallahorn, grenade launchers right now are absolutely melting this man. Two-tailed fox is also working very fantastic. Of course, the fusion grenade build, everything is kind of melting this man, so it is a very easy two-phase. We almost got it in one phase right here, but definitely is just a rinse and repeat of what you did. The two runners connect their sides with those seeds starting at the very beginning. The person in the middle is taking gaze from Nezarec, where you have to be careful on he will attack you when you take the gaze, but you have to watch out for if we need that refuge from whatever pulse he's doing, while everybody else is just ad clearing. Once we connect both the light and the dark seeds, we work our way to a certain plate to deal our damage, and once you finish off that damage and go into final stand, wipe them out, and you get your loot with that red border chest at the end, as well as both of your secret chests, and a good chance, hopefully, at getting the exotic from this raid as well, with certain triumphs helping that drop rate in the future runs. So this raid, not too shabby overall once you learn all the little mechanics of going through and collecting those lightness and darkness seeds. Nothing too crazy about those. You just have to figure out being able to shoot those for each encounter and basically where the next seed nodes are. That is the hardest thing to learn. If you don't know, it can take a little bit of time, which everything in this raid seems to be timed off of something based on a white mechanic. So hopefully this helped you guys out. I know it's a little bit longer than usual, but it is a very intricate raid. Plus we went over both the secret chest as well as the red border chest. So thank you guys again. Get to grinding out the Root of Nightmares here. Very good weapons, very interesting exotic, and the armor set is absolutely wild. I appreciate the support. I appreciate everything y'all do for the channel. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.